In HTML, we can insert images into our documents and they'll be downloaded separately by the browser. And the way that we do that is using the image tag. There's another tag that we'll look at in this video called the figure, which is a little bit more specialized. So in my folder here for my website, you can see I have a folder that I just created called images. And there's two images in here, Callisto and Io. So if I want to import those into my website so that they display, I write img like this. That's the image tag. Now you'll notice that this is a little bit different than most other tags we've written so far in that there is no closing image tag. The image tag like this, the closing one, does not exist, so you don't have to put it. In fact, you can't put it. All the image tag is that, plus some more stuff. So we're going to start with the image tag. The next thing we need to do is tell the browser where it can find the image we want to import. So we type src, which is short for source, and then we follow the same sort of conventions that we looked at in the linking video. So we name the folder that we want to go into, images, and then we put a / and write the graphic that we want to put in, which is io.jpg, like that. So let's pop this open in our browser here. So here we go. We've imported our image into our website. And what is happening here is that the HTML file is just pointing to the other file. That file must go along with the HTML file for it to work. It doesn't get embedded in here. To display our website, the browser needs both the HTML file and the image file. It downloads them both separately. Now, we can actually do another thing on here on the image tag. All images need to have an alt attribute. So on here we can add a new attribute just by pressing space and writing alt equals. And this stands for alternative. So alt is used for when the image doesn't download, or it's used for accessibility tools like screen readers. The idea is that we want to describe what the image looks like and what its purpose is. There's more tutorials on really digging into alt later on. But for this case, it could just be a photo of the moon Io. That's a good enough description for it. Now, I want to show you here that the browser doesn't actually care about the order of these attributes. So I could put alt first if I wanted. And then the source second, like this. And that would be okay. It's important that I have a space between my attributes here and here, but the order is completely irrelevant. You can see when I refresh, if it ever decides to load, I actually have two images now. But the browser doesn't care about what order the attributes go in. The alt attribute we can't see, so it's extremely important that we put it here, but we don't need to see it. It's for if the image doesn't download, like it gets lost in the intertubes, or for someone who can't see the image and they're using a screen reader, the computer will actually read that description out to them. So every image that we put on our website must have an alt attribute, but it doesn't always have to be filled in. So we could actually have a blank alt attribute like this, and that would also be acceptable. But you must always put the alt attribute there. The reason why you'd keep it blank is if the content of that image is not relevant. So this is basically how you import an image. But let's say we want to have a caption for our image, and that's a more specific element. That's called a figure. When we create a figure, that means we want to have an image that also has a visible caption. So we start with the figure element like this, and then inside that, we create our image tag, callisto.jpg, and then we go alt, like that. So you notice here that I indented the image because it's inside of my figure. So I'll go refresh, and you can see it looks fairly well, pretty much the same. There's a little bit of indentation here. That's from CSS, and we'll deal with that later. So I've imported my image, and I still need to supply a caption. So that is the fig caption element. So I'll go and refresh, and you can see now there's some text underneath the image. So this is called a caption. So we're captioning the image in some way. When we have a fig caption, it's perfectly okay to leave the alt attribute empty, because for this one anyways, there's nothing extra I would put in the alt attribute that isn't described by the fig caption. Now, another thing that's really important is that the fig caption element can only be inside of a figure. It's a very specific element. Just like LI elements can only be inside of ULs or OLs, the fig caption can only be inside of a figure. And there's no point using a figure without a fig caption. So we insert images with the image tag, but if we want to have a caption for that image, we wrap it in a figure tag and give it a fig caption like this.